Guys, what's up? This is McAllister's podcast. I'm your host, Coleman McAllister. Joined today with another super solo episode today. A lot of crazy things have been happening the last few weeks. I've not really had a chance to give my thoughts about what's going on. Not mostly. It's all his fault. No, we recently put out an episode with Sean Pryor last week from the Confused Breakfast podcast. If you guys have not seen that episode or have not heard the Confused Breakfast podcast, go fuck yourself. Don't even bother watching this episode, really. No, I'm kidding. But really, probably the only podcast in Iowa that's better than mine. No, I mean, they really are fucking killing it. They've had Bert Kreischer on their show. So I had one of their members from the podcast on mine, Sean Pryor, who I've had him before, and it was just a really good conversation about movies. Really kind of a lot of different stuff going on in the world. So really great interview. If you guys haven't checked that out, please do. Anyways, okay. That was weird. I had like a little puberty moment there. So the biggest thing I think that has been going on in the last few weeks that everyone's talking about, the buzz, the craze, it's all about it. The conviction of Donald Trump for 34 felony counts of falsifying business records related to a 2016 hush money payment to Stormy Daniels. Should we pull up some of her porn? No, I'm kidding. Never saw her porn. I think this didn't all happen. I guess, I don't know. I just never checked out her porn. I think I saw the pictures of her from like her 40s, 50s. I was like, yeah, even if she was good looking back then, like that's some grainy ass porn. You know, I needed my 4K. I need my 4K shit. The algorithm's not picking this up. So anyways, kind of a crazy occurrence, I will say. I did not foresee this actually happening. Despite it like being in New York, which I think that's such a funny thing. I was kind of having a little argument with a friend the other day, and they talked about how I don't even remember what the reasoning was, but just saying that there was some certain reason why they didn't do it federally and why they did it in New York. I think from what I haven't, despite me doing podcasts in this, I'm not sure if he is. I think he's acquitting it or appealing, I should say, to federal courts. So I think that'll be interesting to see if that has an effect. But look, I mean, that could be something that doesn't happen until after the election, right? So that's an interesting thing in itself. Can you imagine he actually wins and he just pardons himself? I'm sure that's happened. This is why we need a producer for these solo episodes, so they can look it up without me typing it in. But anyways, I did not think this is actually going to happen, and this really just sets a precedent for the year 2024. And in a way, it's kind of scary in a lot of ways, I will say. Look, I will say this, face value. Donald Trump, I am not a supporter. I don't agree with a lot of what he did. I think anyone who's still in this train, it's really kind of surprising to me how people are still with that, despite, and I'm going to kind of talk about this later with Chase Oliver being elected for the LP, but how people are like still on the Trump train, despite what he did over his presidency, despite the fact that like he was the, inciting person who like created the inflation problem that we have, right? Biden obviously doubled down on that, right? And just made it absolutely worse. But, I don't think Trump has a great track record. And look, he's not really a great person. He kind of seems like a scummy guy from everything that we've seen. People, I love how like the right will like correlate with Christianity. They'll like have all these like ridiculous paintings of him at Jesus. I saw another one where it was like, it was Jesus holding Trump, and he was like, "Don't worry, I was guilty too." And that is always a funny point that I have with Christians. I'm like, you guys are all about like terrorists and like enemies of the state. Jesus was an enemy of the state. What the fuck are you talking about, bro? But it really does set an interesting precedent for both what the federal government has power of and the inevitable, if this actually goes through, if he actually ends up being convicted and going to jail even. Here's my prediction. I don't think he's going to do any jail time. I think what they're going to do is they're either going to give some ridiculous money amount that forces him to like bow out basically. But I don't even know if that'll happen because they raised $141 million for him. Like, Jesus fucking Christ. 141 mil. Yeah. It's just wild. It's wild that this is happening. I guess at the end of the day, does he probably deserve it? Probably. I mean, look, he did some shitty things in office. He did engage in violence overseas. At least on one occasion, I can never remember I can never remember what the place is called. But I mean, look, despite him dialing back, he did do that. And, he didn't do much to, stop a lot of like the things that could have, prevented what happened on American soil, right? Like with the police, like how the police, like he invoked all these like, mandates to shut down people in his home. Like that happened under him. Like Fauci, who we're going to talk about later, like he like kept him through his entire election. And I think those things alone, like, yeah, he probably shouldn't be part of society. However, I think the point is when I say that there's like a hypocrisy in this, is that there's so many other things you could get him for, but you're getting him for this. This is the same kind of thing that all of these fucking people have in common with Donald Trump, is they are all engaged in this fucking this is even really, I mean, this example isn't even necessarily that scummy in my opinion. I mean, look, as someone who doesn't believe in paying taxes, like who really gives a shit what he uses his money for? If he uses it to pay off a glorified hooker, then so be it, right? Like he can fucking do that. I don't have a problem. I don't see why that's something to like give somebody 34 felonies for. I think that just shows the corruption of the system. Face value. And I think it's in a way, it's almost kind of like a positive light in a way when you see the disconnect from the government and the people. Like that is terrifying in a sense, but it's also in a way gratifying because that means that the people are understanding and that they're coming to the conclusion that, oh, this is kind of scummy. This is kind of bullshit. Like they like this is kind of odd that they really got him for that. And it's a really interesting shift in how the public's perception is going to shift for Trump. It'll be interesting to see if he is even able to be part of the election. I saw the other day that they made his his trial date to July 10th. I think the first debate is July 15th or something like that. I think those dates are right. Maybe it's, yeah. But it's just like is that really an accident? I hate to sound like the conspiracy theorist, but isn't that just a weird thing to have happen? I don't know. It's odd. So those are the things I guess I just worry about with that. And this is I think this is an interesting thing that happened with I guess maybe I should just jump ahead to Chase Oliver being elected for the LP presidential candidate who is not going to win, right? So I think in a way people who are getting like super duper upset about it, like you're just kind of wasting breath in a sense, right? And I think this is a reason why a lot of people I think in the Libertarian Party I've seen, or that I've heard at least, seem to be shifting more to Trump, which I think is just the pure part of the reason why I became an anarchist. I've always been sympathetic to, I was part of the Libertarian Party. I think legally I'm still part of the Libertarian Party. Even though I don't vote, so I don't really care. But it's a hypocrisy in itself, right? It's a hypocrisy in itself, like just giving everything into a party. And this is the result, right? You have, despite like all of the underground media, all the people who have been podcasting and touring and doing all these events and all this shit, have ultimately like failed against the force of, who I would think is like basically the person who the DNC put in to quote unquote represent the LP, right? Because they have a history of doing this. They have a history of doing this kind of thing. You don't have to. I mean, the last two of them were. I mean, not even to this extreme. I think this is probably the most extreme left candidate that the Libertarian Party has elected thus far in like the last, I'd say, 12 years. Excuse me. So it's wild that this happened. And I think there's going to be, it's a minority. I'm willing to accept that. Like, who really cares at the end of the day that this party may be shifting to Trump? But it's a really interesting signal, I think, to like the rest of the population in a way. If one radical group of people are just willing to be like, so pissed off by the fucking Chase Oliver stuff that they're just like, okay, well, fuck, I want to vote, and I want to vote for the thing that's gonna like help me the best, so I'm gonna go vote for Trump, right? But the problem is you're buying into the system. You're buying into the idea that your vote even counts, that your vote even means anything. Look, if you live in Iowa, it's going red if Trump is in there. It's not going any other way, okay? So if you live in Iowa, you might as well just not even care about the election. You might as well just, like, be quiet, okay? Your vote isn't going to mean shit. And, yeah, I get it. People are like, oh, they'll still count. It'll still be for the popular vote. But, look, I mean, there's the Electoral College for a reason, right? They don't even have to go based off the fucking votes, right? Like, in theory, they can just say, fuck it. We just want to... we just want to go this way because of, and they'll give XYZ explanation, right? People will go, oh, okay. But it'll be bullshit. It's because it's all fucking bullshit, people. That's what you should learn. That's what you should get from the podcast. This is all bullshit. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting 2024 cycle. RFK, I'm curious how many votes that'll take away. I think this is going to be like a real, like, it could, if it really turned out to be like a 3-track, like RFK actually pulled like fucking more than 20%. If he pulled more than 20%, that would be crazy. Oh my God, people would like freak. They'd be like, oh shit, third party candidate getting that much? Fuck. That's the thing. If he's running independent, will it even count to that regard? I don't know. I don't know how this works. I should know. I'm running a podcast, you fucking moron. My segues are terrible, people. Okay, another thing I thought was just fucking crazy in terms of the scope of like the corruption government, right? From NPR, conspiracy theorist Alex Jones agrees to liquidate assets to pay Sandy Hook families. 14 years later. No, 12 years later, sorry. 12 years later. This man has to pay $1.5 billion to the people who, if their children were still alive now, would be in college. Asking for $1.5 billion for some remarks that he said 12 years ago on his show, accusing them of being part of a conspiracy theory. Look, let's just... Fuck. I should look this up. What is the O.J. Simpson civil lawsuit now? This is what... $33 million. So the civil lawsuit that followed O.J. Simpson after he murdered 2 people and was sued by the family of the woman, his ex-wife, paid $33 million. Now, to be fair, this was in the 90s. With inflation, it's probably more than that. But this is almost a fifth of the amount at face value, a fifth of the amount that Alex Jones is paying for saying words on a show about people. Not even in person. Maybe, I don't know if he went in person. I don't know that. Let's just say he's not doing it in person. Let's say it's just on the show. Let's say he's going on every day and this is his thing. He's shouting at these people. $1.5 billion? Are you fucking kidding me? This is the problem, people. You're not looking at it on the scope of what's all going on. You're looking at the scope of targeting these people. Oh, these people I hate are getting this punishment, so that's good. And that's not good, because this sets a precedent for the future that anybody can be subject to. Anybody can get fucked by the system. If these are the precedents that are being set, $1.5 billion for saying something on a show. If I said something, if I went on every day, if I started doing the podcast every day and I hopped back on the Sandy Hook thing and I was like, okay, let's reopen this. Let's look at the, we might have done that on the Unhinged Uncensored. I don't know. What if we get sued $1.5 billion, right? It's not likely. It's less than 0.00001%. I'm willing to acknowledge that. Is that crazy hundreds of years from now, 50 years from now? When our children, your children, when your children are old, right? Like, is this going to be something that is normalcy? We're going to sue people this amount of money for saying things on a television show? Fucking insane. Again, this is just this is just government bullshit. We should just name this episode government bullshit. Years later, things about the Hunter Biden trial, things about the COVID. Dr. Fauci, let's play this clip. Dr. Fauci talking about the COVID, all the COVID stuff that happened. All his 6 feet. I don't know exactly what it is, but like what it all entails. I guess maybe we'll find out. But the 6 feet thing for sure, I've heard he just literally just made up. He's admitting this now, years later, after he's out of office, after he's not gonna. I would be shocked if he ever saw any consequences for what he did. He probably will not. Almost they do not. I mean, essentially they do not. So anyways, let's play this.
Gentleman's time's expired. Now recognize Mr. Jordan
this is
from
Fauci
Ohio for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr.
Congress.
Chairman. Doctor, why was it so important that the virus not have started in a lab?
We don't know where it started, and that's the reason why I keep an open mind. So I don't know what you mean by why was it so important. It wasn't important.
Well, you still don't know where it started? The guys you gave money to figured it out in 3 days.
He's like shaking. He's
no.
Mr. Anderson said on January 31st, 2020, virus looks engineered, virus not consistent with evolutionary theory. The very next day, Dr. Gary said, I don't know how this happens in nature. It'd be easy to do in a lab. And then 3 days later, Shazam, they switch and say it has to be nature. So they figured it out in 3 days, but you still don't know?
No, in fact, if you look at what they were saying, Congressman Jordan, they were saying that it was not a manufactured virus. It still could have evolved out of a lab.
Let me read something here.
They're not incompatible.
In our study on the censorship of the Biden administration working with big tech, I want to read you a WhatsApp message from Mark Zuckerberg. Can we include that the White House put pressure on us to censor the lab leak theory? So this is a communication on July 16th, 2021. Nick Clegg, Joel Kaplan, Sheryl Sandberg, Mark Zuckerberg. They're certainly feeling the pressure to downplay any lab leak theory and go with the natural origin theory.
The glasses kill me.
Is there a question there?
One's coming. Here's another email to Mark Zuckerberg. It says, subject line, COVID misinformation, Wuhan lab leak theory. In response to continued public pressure and tense conversations with the new administration, we started removing 5 COVID claims, including the lab leak theory. Mr. Zuckerberg responds, this seems like a good reminder that when we compromise our standards due to pressure from an administration in either direction, we often later regret it. Why was it so important the virus not have started in a lab?
Wasn't so important that the virus not. We don't know We
Well,
know
it was important to someone in the Biden administration, so much so that the top people at Meta, the top people at Facebook are asking, why are we getting all this pressure to downplay the lab leak theory? And we have an email from June of the same year, June 4th, 2021, saying the same thing. It was certainly important to somebody.
Well, what has that got to do with me?
I'm asking you because you're the expert on the coronavirus. I'm saying, why
Am I
was
on
the
those
administration
emails?
why was the administration so pushing not to have the lab leak theory as something that was viable?
I can answer that. I've kept an open mind.
You know who could play a perfect Fauci in a movie? Martin Scorsese. Put Martin Scorsese in for Dr. Fauci. He would kill it. Let's keep playing.
Throughout the entire
You kept
process.
an open mind, Dr. Fauci, open mind.
That is correct.
What happened in those 3 days? Why did Dr. Anderson and, Mr. Anderson and Dr. Gary, why did they change their mind in 180 degrees? Because what Christian Anderson says 3 days later, after he said virus looks engineered, virus not consistent with evolutionary theory, 3 days later he says the main crackpot theories going around at the moment relate to this virus being somehow engineered, and that is demonstrably false. How did they figure all that out in 3 days, Dr. Fauci?
You can do that.
Still have an open mind.
Well, what they did is that they testified before this committee. What they did, they went back and looked at the sequences and realized that their initial concern was
Bring out
unfounded
logs.
about that, and it did not look at all like it was manufactured. But as they said in their paper, even though they feel it was more likely,
3 days, they figured it out.
that's exactly. You could do that
Okay.
in 3 days. You
Okay.
can scan sequences in a day. You
Okay.
don't need 3 days.
Okay, who's Robert Redfield?
The former director of the CDC.
Dr. Redfield, right? And he was also in the coronavirus task force. Is that accurate?
He was a member of the coronavirus task force.
And here's
yes.
what he said to this committee. He said Redfield said that Fauci and Collins left him out because Redfield suspected that coronavirus had leaked from the Chinese lab. Is that accurate?
Well, he said that, but that's not true. That
saying-
is incorrect, Congressman.
Dr. Redfield's lying to the committee when
No.
he sat right where you sat?
He
When he
still-
said that
oh
I
my
kept him
God.
out, that is an incorrect statement. The roster who was on the phone
was Dr. Redfield in that conference call on February 1st when you had Mr. Anderson and Dr. Gary on that call?
He was not, and the conference call was put together by Jeremy Farrar. So no.
Okay, I don't think you need to play much more to just see the blatancy. The fucking play. Just saying, just no. No, that is not true. He's fucking doubling, tripling down, this man. He's never going to see a prison cell. It's just really interesting that this is all coming on display right now. It's very eerie of 2016 when Hillary Clinton was running for president, and all this stuff was happening where she was fainting. The email stuff came out, and that was just like fucking insane. Everybody was freaking out about that. And this is very eerie of that for Biden. And it's even more interesting because, he's a president in office, right? He's running for re-election. So in a sense, he doesn't even have home court advantage, though. Let's be real. I don't know. I mean, I do know people who are still probably, are not even probably. I do know people who are going to vote Biden and who are on the Biden train. Their votes aren't going to matter because they live in Iowa. But, but anyways, it's just crazy what's on display. Hunter Biden's in a 3 felony gun charges, right? Charges trial right now. And the email came up, and it has been confirmed that this email that was posed as Russian misinformation has been confirmed. So again, there's just so many things that are just coming to the light, coming to the fucking the front of what's going on in life, and it's a really interesting turn. I think Cat Williams said it best. 2024 is the year of truth, right? To quote Cat Williams, somebody who I didn't even really fuck with until what was that, the fucking Unhinged clip? Anyways, the year of truth. Anyways, a positive light on this though. positive light in everything that's going on. There was a debate recently with Dave Smith, who I'm a huge fan of. I get a lot of my content information from him. Perhaps I'm just a copycat of him. You can call me out if that's the case. I'm sorry if that's the case. I try to make it original. But I'm a huge fan of his show. And it's just interesting to see him debating Cuomo. What was that? I think it was last weekend. I got around to it the next day because it's Friday night, man. I'm not gonna listen to like COVID shit on Friday night. But it was a fascinating. I mean, it was just phenomenal to watch him tear this man apart in real time. Like, I think for people who have been following this man, Dave Smith, and have been seeing him rile behind the scenes about this, to finally get a chance to face one of these people head on and really just like talk about what the fuck's going on. I thought that was a really powerful thing, a really insane thing that happened. As they say, a real white pill moment. I will acknowledge, like, there are some really positive underlying things that have been happening over the last couple months, despite all the political bullshit. It's really interesting to kind of see it in that light. Maybe I am naive. Oh my God. Maybe I'm naive in a way, you know? Perhaps that is the case. But anyways, let's play this clip from the debate. Just some wild shit.
But listen, you told me I should apologize. So what do you think I should apologize for? And then I'll tell you what I think you should apologize for.
I know what you think I should apologize for. Obviously, there was so much talk that they don't want you to take ivermectin. Ivermectin is the way to go. Take it. Joe Rogan got better from ivermectin. And by the way, I don't like what people did to Joe Rogan about ivermectin. I don't like
You did it.
No. Okay,
Yes,
good.
you did.
Find the clips.
Dude, find the clips. You shamed Joe Rogan.
Find the
You
clips.
said he's taking horse dewormer. You and Don Lemon were chuckling at each other about it.
No.
I'll go find
First
the
of all,
clip.
you just saw the clips.
I watched it.
I'm not chuckling. I'm listening to Don. But
No. The
here's
clip
point.
I'm talking about wasn't on there, and
Here's-
it's absolutely
look, we
there.
were
Here, do we have it? Hold on, let's play the clip.
Go ahead.
Injecting drugs for animals and horse.
And people telling them to. Oh my God. What person? You talk about cancel culture and who to shame. Ivermectin, a dewormer, really?
They are shaming themselves.
That's
No
what
one
it
has
is.
to shame them. They're shaming themselves.
So you're taking a dewormer right now.
So that was just a real positive moment in all the bullshit of all the political bullshit that's going on. And this is kind of my underlying point. Despite me just going on these rants, right? I really encourage people to try to disengage from everything going on. June is Pride Month. A lot of crazy shit's going on with that, right? I see all over people posting about that. And either way, right? I kind of have my thoughts on like how much of that is just a corporate political geist to just distract people, right? I mean, at the end of the day, like, is that really more important than what's really going on in the world? But even just like what's going on politically, right? The political discourse with what we talked about with Trump or whatever. Like, I've had a couple different instances over the last couple of days where people personally have reached out to me, both in criticism and in seeking some kind of affirmation or some sort, just in it's multiple times really over the last year, just bitching about it. And I feel like a dick every time, but I just kind of don't really engage. I'm kind of just yeah, it's crazy, man. I guess my point is, it's okay not to engage with people. It's okay to just let it go. It's okay to just acknowledge, hey, you know what? These people are going to continue what they do no matter what. and this is speaking as someone who on this podcast for years has been interviewing people, talking about these issues head on, being like, facing them, confronting them, being like, hey, don't you think this is a little? And I've seen in real time, we have seen in real time how people cannot wrap their head and just, acknowledge that point or just be, whatever. Put in the comments, put the link in the episode in the comments that you can find. From, whatever, political or religious blindness or whatever, right? There are various reasons why people just can't grapple with certain ideas. And trying to engage with people, especially online, on an online format. I sound really hypocritical saying all this, just doing 30 minutes on what's happening in the government, politics, etc. But I think it's crucial to find a positive way to do it, right? Perhaps do some writing. Or here, you could even do this, do something that's more of a blog format. You could even do a Word document. Fucking just put up a Word document and just fucking type out how you feel about what's going. Make it informative. Try to figure out how to do a proper fucking paper, right? Do a podcast. Go do an Instagram live thing and just turn off the comments. I think that's kind of shitty to do, but just learn to ignore it, right? I mean, I for my social media stuff, for all the podcast stuff, I have all the notifications turned off. Doesn't keep me away from it, but it's at least I think that's a better thing to have than have your phone going off all the fucking time with all your social media notifications. Turn those fucking notifications off, especially if you're a content creator. Please, you will go crazy if you have that shit on. But anyways, look, I encourage people to just kind of disengage. That should be the title of the podcast. Disengage with the government bullshit. It's not worth it. It's not worth the people. It's not worth it to get in fights with your friends and family. If you don't want to have the argument anymore, you can just say, hey, you know what? Look, I was having a discussion with someone the other day, and they were they were trying to justify violence in war. They were there are times where sometimes violence is necessary. And I didn't respond because I couldn't respond because I was like, that's a non-starter for me. That's a non sequitur. I'm done after that. There's no common ground. There's no point where we can continue this conversation because I just disagree at that point. And if you are really willing to say something that bold, that there's, besides in self-defense, that there's any necessity or moral justification for violence, no, I will never agree with that. Very indicative for religious people, of course. This person who hit me up is extremely religious, so I think that says a lot. Anyways, guys, that's my positive note. This, despite all the bullshit, we kind of ended on a positive note. I was writing this out, and I was like, you know what? I'll end on that. I'll be like, you know what? Let's, with all that said, with all the bullshit said, be aware, but also disengage. Find a hobby. I've been reading. My fucking thing has been reading. It's been great. Reading has been great for me. Do something like that. Paint, draw, game. Get into your fucking RPG bullshit. Play Elder Ring. Who gives a fuck, dude? You have no control of it. If you live in Iowa, it's going to go Trump. And Biden's probably going to win. Okay? And even if he doesn't, it's things aren't really going to change that much, okay? And you getting mad about whatever's happening in Israel, Ukraine, or whatever, it's just hyperbole. It doesn't affect you. You don't have to engage with it. Just turn it off. All right. Have a good night, everybody. Peace.